Community Call. Welcome to today's Zcash Community Call, where we're going to meet the candidates standing for election to the Zcash Community Grants Committee, more commonly known as ZCG. My name is Alex Bornstein, and I work closely with FPF in support of ZCG and ZCAP. So funds are allocated to ZCG to support independent teams to perform major ongoing development and other work that benefits the Zcash ecosystem. Grants are chosen by a 5-person committee whose members are elected by the Zcash Community Advisory Panel, more commonly known as ZCAP. The Financial Privacy Foundation, FPF, Cayman Islands Incorporated based not-for-profit organization, administers the ZCG funds and provides administrative and operational support, including running these elections. However, the committee is entirely independent in terms of its decision-making. Committee members serve a 1-year term, and 3 of the current committee members' terms expire at the end of December, so that's why we're holding this election today to fill those seats. 17 candidates have put themselves forward for the community's consideration, and 15 of them are on the call today. We've randomized all 4 rounds of questions, so I'll call on you when it's your turn to answer. Please keep your answers concise out of respect for the big group that we have here today. So I'll begin by asking the candidates to introduce themselves and briefly answer the question, what is the most important reason why you want to join ZCG? And first up is Frank.
Hi, thanks, Alex, for the intro. I'm Frank Braun. I have a background in IT and I'm also a cypherpunk. And my largest belief is that for free society, the ability to communicate and transact privately is essential. And I think Zcash is the best shot we have at achieving such financial privacy in our lifetime. And I would like to join a ZCG in order to help some of the funds to achieve that mission of unstoppable private money and just like generally get a little deeper into the Zcash community and meet some real people. And yeah, just drive the mission forward. Thank you.
Great. ShieldOrder.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Good day. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I work under the pseudonym ShieldOrder, and I keep the focus on structure, not personality. My background is in strategy and risk assessment, and my operative approach has consistently been to cut through ambiguity, surface trade-offs early, and protect finite resources with standards that hold up to stress. This is how I have engaged with the Zcash community from the start. Now, this election cycle specifically has been very special. We've all watched the governance debate reach breaking point with Naval pushing pure markets, Vitalik warning that token voting erodes ecosystem values, Zuko defending committee judgment. The debate rages on. But perhaps most crucially, it focuses only on the who, the mechanism layer. My work addresses the how, the underlying process layer. That is where any governance mechanism, whichever one the community chooses ultimately, becomes accountable execution. Under ZIPs 1014 and 1016, Zcash now runs 2 long horizon funding streams, and at current prices, that is a 9-figure multi-year treasury surface. A scale where drift, unclear milestones, and unverified custody risk become material. And informal norms really are no longer sufficient in this territory. Josh, earlier this week on the forum, clarified the boundary. I mean, ZCG does not govern protocols. ZCG allocates capital inside the ZIP-defined model. Whatever mechanism the community prefers still has to operate within, an identical set of constraints. There's verification, accounting, operational throughput. Experiments are useful when they reveal constraints, but they are not useful when the signal is ambiguous or fuzzy. Now, I gather the community agrees that a quiet investor has set a very high standard at VCG. My contribution would be to push that standard even further, systematize it, so the high standard consistently survives rotation, not personality, not ideology, just process. And two pillars to hold it up. First, a consistent evaluation framework with 5 tests: impact, clarity, alignment, deliverability, and verification. When you apply this set of tests uniformly, every proposal gets either a structured no, a conditional yes, or a clear yes. Decisions become predictable. Builders know expectations, and community members can audit the rationale. The second pillar would be a proportional verification rule for large custodians. Any entity holding a material number, 5 million equivalent, say, for over 12 months, would either provide an annual audit or a quarterly read-only reporting tied to specified allocations. Minimal friction, and again, mechanism agnostic. And also importantly, aligned with the class of risks that have been identified in the recent audit by least authority. None of this replaces the mechanism layer. I mean, ZCAP, token voting, committees, you have it, whatever. What this does is strengthen all of them, really, by making execution visible, repeatable, and verifiable. Zcash today is at a scale where informal norms are obsolete. And I'm not here to advance narratives. I'm here to bring written standards, verifiable reasoning, and treasury hygiene to the 9-figure surface. If voters want continuity plus durable institutional discipline, that is the capacity I am offering. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Kelly Joe. You're on mute, Kelly.
Can I go on?
Yep, we can hear you. Go ahead. Oh, you're muted again, Kelly.
Good evening.
I think you're on mute again.
All right, why don't we'll come back to you, Kelly Joe. Hanh, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Hanh. I've been with the community, Zcash community, for several years now. I'm mostly famous for developing several applications and wallets, particularly a wallet called Y Wallet, which is used by, let's say, I think it's the second wallet used by the community now. But I also worked on several other technical projects, and the latest one being the cone voting that some of you may have used. If I joined the Zcash Community Grant, it's for several reasons. The first one is I would like to bring my engineering skills to the ZCG, and I would evaluate grants from first a technological perspective. I think that's one aspect that is currently underrepresented in the ZCG. So it would be good to have that perspective. My career is fairly long, so I worked as a developer, but lately also in software product management. So I'm fairly familiar with the process of delivering a product to production. And in that respect, I would like to have projects evaluated based on the value they bring to the community, rather than how much they cost, which is currently, I think, the model. That's it. Again, my name is Hanh, and thank you for considering my application.
Thanks, Han. Yeah, and as a reminder, so the introduce yourself plus what is the most important reason why you want to join ZCG. Let's try Kelly Joe again. You ready?
Right. Good evening, guys. Okay. First off, I'm Kelly Joe, and for what is what, why I want to join the ZCG, because I believe in the growth and in the growth of privacy in Zcash. I started as an active community member, then moved to creation of designs and educational tutorials, and then over now as a probationary mod. I believe that ZCG membership is another milestone, for the growth and improvement of privacy around the Zcash network. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Zerodartz, you're up next.
Hello, I'm Zerodartz. I've been active in Zcash for about 4 years now. I started by making memes. Then I got more active and started giving feedback to Zcash wallets and when I had problems and bugs. And I really love open source software and privacy projects. And last year I've been on the ZCG committee reviewing grants, and I'd like to continue it if possible, because I think Zcash is one of the most successful privacy projects so far, and it has the most potential for the long term to become like the easiest to use money for everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Zero. Tom Howard, you're up next.
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. So yeah, I'm Tom Howard. I've got a background in tech, both from an engineering and product building side, involved in various DAOs and foundation setups and all these different things. And also built a centralized crypto derivatives exchange and have invested in over 300 crypto projects. Now, the question is, why ZCG? I'm already clearly a part of the Zcash community, and I believe strongly in privacy as the kind of final pillar of Bitcoin's sound money. I think what's really interesting about Zcash is this developer reward experiment, which a lot of L1s have shied away from for the very good reason that it's really hard to prove that the work was done and the work was useful to the ecosystem. And so blockchains are very willing to pay miners and validators a reward because it's easy to prove that they've done something that was useful. And with Zcash, I think the onus is still on us to prove that that is a good model. The weakness of other blockchains is that they don't always have a good way to fund the infrastructure. And we've seen that a lot of the foundation-based models where the founders kind of grant money to a foundation end up, either inefficient or grifting or various other failure states. So the reason that I'm interested in joining ZCG in particular is I think we are in a growth stage for Zcash. I think there's a lot of things that we need to really get right in order to take Zcash to the next level. And I think that the capital allocation into all of this infrastructure is a critical part of this. And I basically want to bring my skills and talents as a product manager and an investor into intelligently allocating the capital into things that will push Zcash forward in the most impactful way. Somebody said earlier, we shouldn't be paying for work, we should be paying for results. And I agree with that. How do you measure results is another question that is sometimes subjective, especially when you're building public goods. But that's something I've got a lot of experience with, for better or worse, in the various DAOs that I've been a part of over the years. So anyways, that's why I want to join ZCG. In the end, I think, we may not need the developer reward if we've gotten everything built out, and we should always be evaluating our allocation against not allocating or burning that money, if that is the better thing for Zcash. So yeah, thanks for having me here.
Thanks, Tom. Qdev, are you here with us? Okay, we'll move on to Artkor. So introduce yourself, plus what is the most important reason why you want to join ZCG?
Well, hello everyone. I'm Artkor. I've been an active member of the Zcash community since 2018, and I'm currently serving on ZCG. Besides my work on the committee, I've continued growing the Russian-speaking Zcash audience across social media. I collaborate with other crypto communities in the region and explain why Zcash matters, sharing updates and news on a regular basis. This is a measurable contribution that help expand awareness of our project. Over the past year, I also tried to gain some hands-on experience with the technical side of the ecosystem. One example is the work around getting Gemini to migrate to Orchid addresses, which become best possible thanks the availability of a new library parser. I'm trying to grow in multiple directions because I want to understand the ecosystem from both the community and technical angles. I believe I have a strong understanding of the internal structure of Zcash that's important for grant coordination because, as you know, we have many development teams and ZCG has to support them while also attracting new contributors for new areas of work. My focus has shifted from simply evaluating proposals to understanding the kinds of grants we are missing, which gaps are slowing us down, and where support could unlock real progress. I think a lot about our bottlenecks and how to reduce the friction that teams experience. This is, of course, a collective effort, but Zcash remains a personal priority for me, and I want to stay at the center of making this progress real. Anyone who wants to learn more about my background can find additional details in my nominations posts on the community forum. Thank you.
Thanks, Artkor. Anaximander, up next.
Hi everyone, Anaximander from Switzerland. I am the deliberate outsider running for the third seat. What about myself? I allocate capital and design incentives since about 20 years in investment banking, finance ministry, diplomacy. Now I run our family's investment company, and I will call it the industrial business. The current committee is excellent. Deep protocol knowledge and proven execution. The third seat has often been the one that adds the missing perspective. Without privacy, no free speech. Without free speech, no free societies. We can't let dogmatism win. The most important reason why I'm here is that Zcash has already the best privacy tech on earth for private money. To win, we must make it unstoppable. For that, we must accelerate now. How? Simplicity has to be the obsession. The real multiplier is the global ecosystem and local communities. Passionate developers, shops, and businesses, they are the ones who will make private money unstoppable. CCG's job is to help to build the ecosystem. In practice, we apply One metric for assessing grants. Net shielded spending impact. Details later and in the forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Milo, Readymouse.
Hello, I'm Milo Bennett, aka Readymouse. I spent 10 years as a defense contractor working on radar systems, building out software and signal processing pipelines. And in the past year or so, I have left working for the military as a contractor and kind of delve into crypto, especially into the Zcash. And so I've attended a lot of events that Zcash has happened, in particular in my local community, and as well as participating in the hackathon. And so that's sort of my technical background. For the military, I moved into project management. So I wrote a lot of proposals. I read a lot of proposals. I have a track record of millions of dollars of won for the military. And I now want to work on something that has meaning and value to society, other than just missile systems. So that's my primary motivation, is moving towards something that I actually think will do good for the community, and particularly for those who are privacy-minded or at risk of being debanked or excluded from traditional financial systems. So I want to work on the community board to sort of like use my skills in project management and proposal writing, but also this is a technology I want to see in the world, and I want to be a part of that. Thank you.
Great, thanks. 1337 bytes.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Leets Bytes. I've been working as a professional software engineer for 9 years, and I've worked in startups, including the cybersecurity sector and developing web and mobile apps. And for the past 4 years, I've been working as a full-time open source developer. And I've been involved in research and development in the design systems field, collaborating with maintainers of other projects and building apps for the Zcash ecosystem. So I became active in the Zcash community in 2021. Before that, I was interested in both Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash primarily, and what brought me to the Zcash community was realizing that it's the best way to provide privacy, both for day-to-day spending and for keeping other crypto assets private via swaps. I'm the maintainer of the BTC Pay Server Zcash plugin, which is also worked on by Hanh, and have been working together with merchants to help them accept Zcash using it, and I created Zec Publish, a continuation of Zec Pages. I would like to serve as a balanced candidate, as both backgrounds, both engineering and design, and cybersecurity, and would like to encourage both existing and new teams to create better Zcash apps that will lead to mass adoption and drive efficient collaboration and faster innovation among Zcash builders, for example, with SDKs and user-facing apps. And sort of with a focus on better UI and UX.
Great, thank you. Kralux, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Alex Kral, and I go by Kralux online. I'm a hardware and software developer and an entrepreneur. In the last 5 years, I successfully sold my company to a Fortune 500 firm. My first success started at the age of 16 when I coded and sold a video game for the Atari ST and Amiga computers. After that, I spent years designing integrated circuits, then software for mobile phones, and in the past 15 years, building power conversion microinverters for solar. My current project is a super secure digital safety deposit box for seed phrases and inheritance secrets. I'm also a member of local angel investor group here, which is relevant experience for serving on the ZCG. I'm an OG Bitcoiner. My life changed when I discovered Bitcoin in 2013. I became obsessed with it, seeing it as the best economic and political tool offered to humanity. I started paying my friends in Bitcoin and used it as much as I could to promote it. Unfortunately, today it doesn't work as well as it used to. I'm also a long-term Zcash holder, and now I pay contractors abroad as well as my pool guy in Zcash. I love the beauty and magic of zero-knowledge proofs. To me, crypto isn't just an asset class, it's the last hope for freedom and the only antidote to global control. I'm self-nominating because I believe Zcash is crucial to the survival of freedom in this world, and I want to bring a strict business mindset based on meritocracy to the Zcash Community Grants. I believe we must return to Satoshi's original vision, cryptocurrency as peer-to-peer digital cash. Bitcoin has succeeded as a store of value so far, but it lacks the speed and fungibility required to be a true medium of exchange. Zcash solves this through privacy. because privacy is fungibility. With our faster network and the upcoming Tachyon upgrade, Zcash has a much better shot at becoming the dominant global cryptocurrency than Bitcoin ever will. My vision is to relentlessly drive Zcash towards acceptability and usability as private digital cash. The ZCG treasury is not a social fund, it's a war chest for building useful tools and grow the community. To bootstrap adoption, we need to lower barriers to entry and fund marketing rooted in education. In an effort to further decentralize, we need multiple client implementations, tools for decentralized governance like on-chain proposal, stakeholder voting, better visibility, and to continue the long-term development of the tech. I'm here to serve the Zcash mission. I'm ready to steward the ZCG with a focus on efficiency, accountability, and the unyielding pursuit of private, free financial future.
Great, thanks. On to the last two. So first, TS.
Thank you, Alex. So I'm TS Felsted, Thurston Felsted, but call me TS. I'm a decentralization maxi, and I've been interested in privacy technology and the new world of crypto anarchy since I read the original United Kingdom edition with the red cover of The Sovereign Individual in 1997, which was in my youth. So I'm a crypto risk independent consultant, and I'm here to join ZCG to get more shielded ZEC into the pool and then get it into circulation as P2P, person-to-person electronic cash. I believe that Zcash is primarily for spending, and all the good things will come after that. And that's basically it.
Great, thanks, TS. And finally, Vlad, you're up.
Hi, I'm Vlad. I've been in the Bitcoin community for almost a decade, and I've been doing the Bitcoin Takeover podcast for almost 7 years now. And the reason why I decided to run for this election, basically, is that I want to bring my experience from the Bitcoin community into Zcash, because I do believe that Zcash is the competition that Bitcoin deserves at this point, because it's been very complacent and oblivious of the fact that it needs to get private also, and also scale better. And I do believe, so it's very funny because I've listened to all the answers, and if you asked me the same question before listening to all the answers, I would still mention this, because some of you mentioned decentralization and resilience, but nobody mentioned anything about making it easier to run user nodes, which I think even at this point is still something that requires some technical proficiency and not very user-friendly. So that's something that I would look into, and also to commodify home mining, because I've seen some projects from the Bitcoin community, like the BitAxe, for example, which is recycling chips from large ASICs to build these tiny lottery machines. So I would love to see more home mining. I would love to see more individual user nodes. I would love to see more activity to grow the community, to support local communities that are actually bringing real users to the network. And basically what I want to do is to use my knowledge in terms of how to make a network resilient and decentralized. All the skills that I've learned by being a Bitcoiner for almost a decade, to support Zcash to become the competition that Bitcoin deserves. And I guess this can also quantify in the price, but what I'm mostly concerned about is just making this the best and most resilient private money network that it can be.
Awesome. Thanks, Vlad. Thanks, everybody, for your intros. That was great. Now we can move on to kind of our second question. Just a reminder to try to keep things concise and as brief as possible and on topic. Everybody's done a great job so far. Really appreciate it. So the next question is, when evaluating prospective grants and projects, how do you weigh social reputation versus technical merit, given the new realities with AI? And up first is Tom.
The way social reputation with technical merit. That's an interesting question. I think it's not always so simple to separate those two. When I look at cryptographers that have successfully been building for the past decade, the reputation that precedes them is in fact their merit, their technical merit, right? And so when it's getting deep into math that, admittedly I couldn't solve the equations that make Zcash possible by myself. So I do rely on people smarter than me to evaluate those sort of things, right? And so in those cases, I consult anyone who, to me, has a strong reputation for their own technical merit to help me evaluate those sorts of things. So when I come at it from that perspective, then they're very interrelated. When the technology is at a level that I can directly look at and read and understand myself, then I run the code, I audit the code, I make sure it works. And if somebody ships a project that I can, which I've done with many tools in the Zcash system, I try to run the infrastructure on my machine, get it to build, get it to compile, and that doesn't always work with some of the libraries in Zcash, which is part of the reason that I'm running for this committee. And so I think when we can self-verify, then technical merit can go a long way. But some of these things are very, very, esoteric, and if you can't do the math yourself, you do have to rely on social reputation.
Great, thanks, Tom. Readymouse, you're up next.
Alrighty. I think the question here is like, if we get a proposal, how can we tell if it's written by AI, even if it sounds technically good? And I think for their sort of like looking at their GitHub commit history, which also can be modified. And I think also for people who are coming from commercial software world or from like the government, right? Like I don't have as extensive of a GitHub history because a lot of my work hasn't been open source. So for cases like that, I would say like, okay, can we have a conversation like we're having today where we talk about technical concepts and make sure that we understand the person who is talking is the person who wrote the proposal and kind of like understands the content, as well as like community vouching. Do other people know this person? Have they done projects before? As well as then milestone-based funding, right? If we are sort of like insecure about a proposal, sort of saying like, okay, let's like make some little milestones when they deliver those, then kind of give larger chunks for the project. That way we can say like, sure, let's give this person a chance. They sound technically good. Maybe they don't have a GitHub history, but give them a little bit of money, see what they can deliver, and then move forward from there. Because I do think it's a challenging thing these days, where you can sort of just AI proposal and dump it in the forums. So that'd be my approach.
Great, thanks. So the question again, when evaluating prospective grants projects, how do you weigh social reputation versus technical merit given the new realities with AI? And Vlad, you're up next.
Oh, nice, because I basically changed my answer 3 times while thinking. So I think it's a false dichotomy. It doesn't matter how the code was produced. The question is, does it solve a real problem in an easy and elegant way? Because there might be situations where you get people with very good reputation who might be trying to extract value, or you get people who are basically trying to DDoS the whole process with AI crap, which they generate and doesn't really solve any problem. What really matters is whether or not this is useful and whether or not this is an elegant solution to a complex problem. If it adds layers of complexity, it's probably not worth looking into. But if it does solve the problem in a way that other people did not think about, or other intelligences, human or artificial, then it's something that deserves consideration. This also means that we rely a lot on the auditing skills of people who actually know how to look into this and understand whether or not it's useful. Because if you look at GitHub history, I mean, you can also game it, right? You can just make a daily commit, just erase a comma in your code and add it once again for a year, and then it's gonna look like you've been super active on your project. And honestly, I don't think we're in a situation, or the way that I see AI is not that it's necessarily a threat, it's more like a complementary tool. And it's something that can actually help Zcash as a project to progress if used properly. I do believe that the innovative solutions will not come from the AI because it's just regurgitating what's already out there in open source repositories. But if someone gets creative enough to have the right prompt to solve the problem, I mean, that can be taken into consideration. So I do believe that reputation matters. I also believe that there is technical merit that needs to be taken into consideration, but the merit should be that of solving a real problem in an easy way that is also easy to audit. So this is my answer.
Okay, thanks, Vlad. ShieldOrder, you're up next.
Okay. Reputation can be misleading in an environment where AI manufactures or can manufacture credibility signals at scale, basically. It means soft signals like social standing, branding, and narrative strength are increasingly unreliable. I'd anchor my evaluation in hard signals only. Technical merit, verifiable output, and alignment with ecosystem needs. The 5-test framework that I have enforces that discipline. Impact, clarity, alignment, deliverability, and verification. A proposal either defines a real problem, presents a measurable plan, and commits to milestones that can be checked without having to interpret, or it doesn't. Reputation can provide context, but it cannot replace structure. We're now stewarding a 9-figure treasury surface across multiple years. At that scale, decisions have to survive hype cycles and personality shifts. And AI-generated narratives as well. Technical merit and verifiability are the stable ground. Social reputation is soft signal. It's therefore secondary. I mean, the hard signals determine the vote.
Great. Thank you, ShieldOrder. So a reminder, when evaluating prospective grants projects, how do you weigh social reputation versus technical merit, given the new realities with AI? And Anaximander, you are up next.
Excellent question. So with or without AI, my 3 non-negotiable rules available on the forum remain the same, and you will see why. So my 3 rules is net shielded spending impact is the only metric that counts. The second one is projects that deliver the highest shielded spending impact get funded first and fastest, with ironclad milestones and clawbacks. And the last one, a protected slice for loyal long-term builders and visionary research. So how I see AI is more like a multiplier. And without feeding with great inputs, you get high entropy. When unexpected problems hit, and I can tell you, they always do, so I run different projects and businesses, I want people that can think creatively and fix the problem. Judgment and creativity have never been so important at this stage of AI. Maybe it will be different with AGI, but we are not there. As everything is amplified with AI, So it's important to identify and work with those with these qualities. This is also, I would say, a signal to the rest of the ecosystem about what we are looking for. Yeah, that's it.
Great, thanks. kellyjoe, you're up next.
Okay, I'll try and be concise with my answer. So this is a very important question. So for the bottom part, I'll say that we can agree with me that AI has, limited the barrier of creating credible looking proposals and grants. We don't really need to stress much in that area. You just prompt rightly, and so that's not the issue. But the issue here is looking at the technical aspects. What we'll be looking at is how feasible that grant or proposal is in that region. Apart from what was stated in the proposal, can this grant or proposal be technically feasible in a particular region? There are some proposals that are not actually that cannot be situated in a particular region, maybe due to certain circumstances, but due to it was AI prompted, it just gathers best fact and give it, and someone sees it and likes it and just sends it out. So those are some things you can consider in technical aspect. How is the method of operationability? How can it be properly effected in that area? Does it really sustain what it wants in the grant? In the social fact reputation, it precedes the reputation of the person in terms of trustworthiness, integrity. Can this person actually keep to his values? What is his intention? Is it for the attention, or is it for the purpose of giving growth to the community? You understand? So how I can say is the best strategy, not really the best, but my own strategy on how to undertake this is to first check the technical merit. I will give it in a percentage form. The technical merit will be at a 50%. How possible is this project? We're not just giving our money out for something we just saw. Is it something that is possible to achieve? That's this we evaluate first. At a 50% merit, then I will use social reputation as a reliability filter. That will take the 40%. Then the risks and other contingencies will be a 10% to use to judge the credibility of the grant and the proposal. Thank you.
Thanks, kellyjoe. Hanh, you're up next. Looks like Hanh stepped away for a quick sec, so we'll come back to him. 1337 bytes, you're up next.
Yeah, so I think I see that both should go hand in hand, and they need to both factor in kind of social reputation and technical merit, and then if one of those is weaker, then there should be extra focus on the other. And I think that's kind of given the reality with the AI, that should be treated as a spam problem, and that metrics such as account age, having web of trust, having people vouch the work, and having codes that can be inspected is especially even more so important now. And I think there's an extra burden of proof of merit and work for pseudonymous applicants, for new applicants especially. Yeah, I feel kind of for now that using systems such as kind of GitHub history, especially is kind of seeing kind of what organizations and kind of larger projects people have contributed to is important, but then also seeing kind of how whether for kind of federalized systems like Nostr or kind of federalized Git and so on could be used also for sort of checking technical merits. And having a process to check for AI red flags, I think, and also kind of encourage transparency, and then kind of effectively sort of penalize if someone hasn't been transparent, but then or kind of conceal the usage of LLMs. But then if it is discovered that they've used LLMs, then that should be factored in. Yeah, and I think kind of checking that someone has started with a problem and not the solution, I think is a kind of key metric to use. Especially kind of if they've been active in the community and have been kind of actually trying to seek out problems first before jumping straight away to a solution. I would be kind of against the idea of using systems such as proof of humanity and so on, because I think systems like this could push away legitimate contributors. But yeah, I think it's kind of key of having multi kind of faceted approach. And I think it's partly kind of statistics problem. How can we make it not worth efforts for kind of low value repeat proposals under pseudonyms to be submitted and so on? Yeah, that's it.
Great, thanks. Hanh, you're up.
All right. Hey, okay, so the question is about AI, and I think actually that at this moment, AI is not that good so that you can fool someone who has a deep understanding of Zcash technical aspects. So I think you refer to a few of the proposals that were submitted by somebody who got banned from the forum as a result of that. These proposals were clearly written by AI, but I don't think that necessarily you want to discard them because they were written by AI. The main problem with these proposals is that they were not making sense, and so they have to be reviewed from a perspective of if you want to put money onto something and you want to understand if the contractor that's going to do the work is reputable or is knowledgeable. So if you don't have that knowledge, for example, you have a car, you want to have your car serviced, but you don't know if the mechanic is going to fix your car properly, I think you need to go and ask somebody who knows. So luckily for me, that's not so much the case because I think I would be able to figure it out. But if that was not the case, I would ask the ECC, I would ask the ZF. There are plenty of engineers around that would be able to wait on the technical aspects. So I think my answer is I don't think it really applies to me, but in general, I think we have a large community of people who know their stuff. And if it's something that I don't know, I would ask somebody else. So that's it.
All right, thanks, Hanh. And again, to revisit the question here, when evaluating prospective grants projects, how do you weigh social reputation versus technical merit given the new realities with AI? And Frank, you're up next.
Yeah, so of course, fake applications created by AI need to be filtered out, but I think that can be done mostly on technical merit. And we also live in a new reality where AI can be of great help. So if somebody uses some AI assistance in grant applications, that's to be expected. And I think it's not bad per se. So primarily the technical merit has to check out no matter if some AI help was used or not. I think, however, that reputation is important to assess the likelihood that a grantee can successfully complete the project, but it shouldn't be the dominating factor because otherwise we might lose important applications from newcomers who don't have that reputation. And social reputation is also not necessarily the best indicator of the success likelihood of grant applications. So you don't want to miss out on the introverted autistic 10x developer who isn't necessarily the best, social person or like social animal. And similar here, like a good social reputation is probably not the best indicator for the role on ZCG as a good capital allocator. And finally, the evaluation of a grant project or the individual milestones were successfully completed is primarily done by the FPF together with the ZCG committee, and that's where the real check is done. So with the advent of AI, that's probably where we need to spend more time and scrutiny in the future to make sure that grants that checked out on technical merit in the beginning of the process were actually successfully completed and not just with AI generated code that appears to be working but isn't. Thanks.
Thanks, Frank. TS, you're up next.
So First, it depends what your threat model is. So is it somebody trying to get money for nothing to effectively scam you to get income, or is it a nation state actor who's got a similar idea, but they also want to do it in a huge way by infiltrating and putting backdoors in your code, a la the Loudons Group and the APTs from North Korea? That really is a general question. I think we may have to worry about both in the future. In the age of AI, fight fire with fire. Assume that you've got a model first to use against the other models to try and weed out the obvious fakes or low quality AI slop. And the main thing that I think about reputation is once you have found a good individual or team who has done a good project for you, you should encourage them to do more for you. I think this is an important part of what ZCG does, that it encourages people who have done projects for the Zcash community to come and bid for more. And I'm happy to say that there are a few on this call who fit this category completely. So in general, though, of course, it's about review and audit. And that requires skilled people that know what they're doing. So you just need to reach out to them and, if necessary, spend the market rates to check the proposals and the assumptions that you yourself can't spot, which I think is just necessary in today's really complicated world. AI is just going to enhance people's ability to do good things, but short term, it's like the days when everybody in the 1980s got video camcorders. It wasn't a great renaissance of wonderful filmmaking, but then you got people who were very good inside that small group of people who made excellent films on VHS camcorders, and it's important not to discourage the good people who are just starting out. And that's my answer.
Great, thank you. Okay, down to the last three for this question. Zero, you're up next.
I like many of the answers given by others already. I think social reputation matters for trustworthiness, and projects with no verifiable online presence or track record should be viewed super critically. But it doesn't always guarantee much if even a team with good track record publishes code that has issues working in the way that it was promised. There was one situation already this year which ended up needing a lot of time and resources from ZCG and other core team developers to fix it. And while AI can help development in some ways, the team must ensure the code integrity and must be prepared to address any issues with their code and should not need much extra time from other teams. And community-focused grants should consider reputation and past work history. And overall, it's getting harder to evaluate all these things. And there's like no perfect final solution for it, but yeah, looking for many different parts can help.
Thank you. Kralux, you're up next.
I think some people are more impressed with social reputation and others with technical merit. I'm more of the latter. Clearly, they both matter, but I would prioritize technical merit over reputation. Social reputation, I think, is becoming increasingly an unreliable metric. It's too easy to manipulate with bots, astroturfing, think of XRP, for instance, and it can also be short-lived. I weigh technical merit and verifiable deliverables above all else, and that would create reputation, not the other way. So while reputation helps establish an initial baseline of trust, it cannot be the sole basis for funding. I will apply a don't trust, verify approach to all applicants. For instance, well-known community members submitting a vague proposal should be rejected, while an unknown developer providing a really good working proof of concept should be funded. In terms of defeating AI, I think that getting to know the person and the project matters even more today. So enhanced communication, direct communication to really get a good feel about who that person is and what they're capable of is crucial in the time of AI. And yeah, that's it.
Great, thanks. And last but not least, Artkor.
Thanks. My answer is mainly based on this year's experience. So for obvious reasons, ZCG received a significant number of AI-generated proposals this year. And without going into internal details about our filtering process, I can say that at this point, it is actually not difficult to recognize proposals that were fully generated by AI and lack real substance, real understanding, or a genuine technical problem behind them. The ZCG members have enough experience to understand if something is truly a missing piece of ecosystem or if it is a manufactured idea looking for funding. And in areas where we are not fully confident, we bring in experienced devs from that specific domain to help us evaluate the proposal properly. So I don't think AI will outperform ZCG in this area anytime soon. And if one day AI does produce a generally strong idea, then I would honestly be very happy about it. We will simply move to the next step, which is our standard practice, getting on a call with the team to confirm their expertise and to see whether they can realistically deliver the work. Thanks for the question.
Great, thank you, Artkor. So next question, what is one grant that ZCG approved that you would have voted against if you had been on the committee? And let's try to keep these fairly brief so we can get to the fourth question and get some good conversation on that. So what is one grant that ZCG approved that you would have voted against if you had been on the committee? And first up is 1337.
Yeah, so I think what is the kind of main thing is that it's kind of something that's getting community sentiments is important, and trying to encourage more user engagement in the forum. And it's better for people to speak up earlier. And sort of, at least for me, I feel like the Zcash media grants, even though in the long term they've been active in the community and the videos and channel proved successful, I've, at least to my kind of understanding, this is something where I feel the community feedback has been kind of the most negative, I think. And I think there's a lot of value in projects such as ZCAP, where there are weekly and monthly videos. And especially for social media algorithms, it's important to keep the momentum up. And I think such grants, there should be more kind of emphasis on kind of keeping the kind of channels kind of up, or kind of having at least sort of weekly, monthly videos long term. And then kind of ideally having an existing platform to publish to, rather than creating something new, because it's going to take some time for sort of websites like YouTube to kind of pick up on the videos, even if the kind of production quality is high. And I feel also that, yeah, that's, I think kind of having sort of a minimal base cost for an MVP and then stretch goals based on metrics would be good for sort of media focused projects.
Great, thanks. Anaximander, you're up next.
Thank you. So I would have voted against any grant that couldn't show a clear path to more shielded spending within 12 months. And the idea behind is that the consumer must never have to think about privacy. It just works invisible and faster than anything else. If using Zcash privately ever feels like extra work we have already lost. Why I'm talking about that is because beautiful tech with no users is a luxury we can't afford. That said, I wasn't involved, so it would be unfair to judge a past decision with today's information. And just on a personal note, I led some construction project, and there I led about, I put 200 contractors in competition and I hired 50. And I use certain iron crowdbacks, milestones, and clawbacks to try to manage it. But I always encounter, we always encounter some unexpected problems. And the first priority is to fix the problem. That's for sure. And then later we try to assess. But the things that I try to assess is always to assess, given the information I had at that time, if I made a mistake and so on. And from there, I can try to think how to improve the framework. Now, what I propose for ZCGs is that in the future, that ZCGs publish a one page on the forum that they can update with key criteria plus main objectives we want the ecosystem to focus next. So we can build incentives and provide some guidance. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So what is one grant that ZCG approved that you would have voted against had you been on the committee? kellyjoe, you're up next.
Okay, thank you for this important question. For this, I would say that I don't think there was anyone I would have voted against, since it was carefully deliberated on and consciously decided. Two good heads are better than one, and I believe they consciously made that decision. But then, I would say, if I was to evaluate based on my own criteria, I would have checked if it was actually community driven, or if it was towards the growth of privacy towards Zcash. If there was one that fell short of this above mentioned, I believe those were the ones I would have voted against. But there were some they voted against that I would have voted for actually. I would just say probably because of regional limitations. There are some grants that can be significant in Africa or in Asia or Europe that maybe someone in another different continent might not significantly see the impact. So this is what another point I'm trying to raise is a need for regional representatives. Someone that at least one ZCG member from each of these continents: Africa, Asia, Europe, America, and what's not. So that's just what I have to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Readymouse, up next.
So I think I'm skeptical of the ZSAs, the shielded assets, and I would love to see them actually launched and being used. So one of the recent grants was user control for ZSAs, which it looks like it was adding asset swaps and spam prevention, which sort of like spam prevention, they haven't been launched yet. So I would love to see them launched. I would love to see those assets being created, being used before like further development is added for additional features. The spam prevention in particular, it was saying like, you don't want your sort of wallet flooded with like hundreds of ZSAs that you like didn't consent to receive. But we don't actually have any yet that I know of that are in the wild. So I'd like the inbox before I have major spam prevention. So that's one area that I would like to see sort of some progress there before like further grants for other features are added.
Great, thank you. So Frank, what is one grant that ZCG approved that you would have voted against if you had been on the committee?
Yeah, and so even being relatively new to the Zcash community, this question feels a bit like walking over a minefield. So I was looking through the history, and two that stuck out were Zcash Media and Qedit CSAs. And for Zcash Media, because it's hard to measure, and for CSAs, because it's far away from the core mission. And then the early proposed asset-specific viewer keys also don't mix well with the core mission. But I think the biggest problems with these two was that the absolute and relative size of the grants was too large relative to the budget at the time. And these expenses also have to be measured against not spending the funds at all. So that doesn't mean I would have necessarily rejected them per se, but I think if a grant application is not clearly measurable or it's very far from the core mission, it needs smaller milestones and then a reassessment. But generally, I think experiments are okay as long as they don't strain the treasury too much and are not too large. And I think that was the problem at the time for these two, that they strained the treasury pretty far. And that's why they were so controversial. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Frank. I realize now that asking Zerodartz and Artkor these questions is a bit weird, but Zerodartz, answer how you'd like. So what's one grant ZCG approved that you would have voted against had you been on the committee? Answer in your own.
I have one from the older times, and I think I'm not sure if I would have voted against it, but with the information that was available at that time. But one that comes to mind is the older ledger integration grants that didn't get users a good shielded Zcash experience inside the ledger live apps. And I think those integration difficulties and risks weren't probably rated correctly at the time. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Zero. Tom, you're up.
Yeah, so it's always hard to make that call when you don't have the full context of being on the ZCG committee. But I think I would highlight I would say two that I think are fairly representative. So one, there was this experiment with ZSAs, and I think a lot of time was spent on this speculation that in order to get ZSA issuers to issue on Zcash, there had to be this entire compliance layer built, and I think that was I'm actually not sure. There's so many sources of funding within Zcash. I'm actually not sure if it was a ZCG funding, but I know a lot of time was spent on building the compliance layer of ZSAs, and then it turns out that there's actually no issuers who want to do that at the moment. So I think that would have been something that would have been better as a partnership first, and then build the compliance layer. And then the other side of that is, Nighthawk just announced that they're deprecating Zcash support, and I think the committee spent about $535,000 funding Nighthawk. Now you can't predict that a team is not going to stick with it for the long term per se, but I think there's a lot of user experience issues with Nighthawk where it was already difficult to use that wallet, and things were already not working as well as they could be, or as well as they should as like a base level user experience. So I think I probably would have cut funding to them earlier, or I would have adjusted their milestones to say, hey, if you want to keep getting funding, you've got to nail that usability first if you really want to, if you want to continue getting funding. So those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Tom. Hanh, you're up next.
Okay. Okay, so one of them is a Zcash Media, but not necessarily because it was too expensive or not effective. The first Zcash Media grant was actually quite good. It's the second one that I have reservations. The proposed outline of the videos were very vague and didn't really commit to Zcash, but more about privacy in general. So I would have taken that as something that the other privacy coins could have leveraged instead of us. I could see the Monero guys use these videos instead of the Zcash guys. So for me, it was too general. Didn't really like that. But more recently, I would say the technical stuff would be the Uni FFI and the ZWIF technical proposals or technical grants, just because they really were not used at all. And this was probably obvious from, not obvious, but you could see it from the way they were published. So there are others, but I think these are the few ones that I'm thinking about. CSA too, I agree with most of the guys have said earlier. It would have been better to see them in production rather than pile up more and more features without even seeing a single ZSA being created. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Hanh. Artkor, up next.
I think that in hindsight, it is maybe seem easy to point to grant that did not reach their intended outcome, we all know where projects what were not complete or teams what later decide to stop supporting Zcash of various reasons. But I don't believe those grants were bad decisions at the moment they were approved. And none of them went against the interests of the community at the time. So of them were discussed as being expensive or ambitious, and maybe with today's context they would look different. But if those same ideas had been successfully delivered today, we would probably view them as reasonable and valuable investments. Why not? For that reason, I don't think it is productive to single out past grants by name. Not every grant should end in success. That is normal. It is, and this is very similar to how venture investments work. Where all of ZCG is not to eliminate all risk, but to minimize funding for projects where the probability of failure is high. That's my view on it, and thanks for the question.
Great. So, ShieldOrder, what is one grant that ZCG approved that you would have voted against had you been on the committee?
Well, I do not really want to relitigate past members or projects, but I can point to where my filters would have produced a different outcome. Any proposal with broad scope, ambiguous milestones, or a verification process dependent on subjective interpretation would not clear the threshold. Looking at what has been done today, I guess the weakest performance came from work that lacked structured deliverables. Historically, the pattern showed up most often in ambassador marketing type grants, not because anyone acted in bad faith, but because the work was not measurable, not tied to shielded usage, not anchored to specific outcomes. The rule should be simple. If progress cannot be verified without interpretation, I vote no. This treasury scale today, and specifically in light of the recent audit flagging readiness gaps, precision is not optional. The standard should be the same for everybody, for everyone. Clear scope, objective milestones, and independent verification.
Great. Thanks, ShieldOrder. All right. Down to our last three for this question. Vlad, you're up.
Yeah, so given the superpower of hindsight, which I now have, which theoretically makes me a genius and I can evaluate any project, and the fact that I'm looking at the list, I will just try to extend the answer a little bit and just say what I like and what I don't like about the current projects that are being funded by the Zcash Community Grants. Y Wallet, great work. Zec Hub, I think it's indispensable. At this point, it's like the Wikipedia of the project, and I use it every day for even looking at the number of coins that are in the Orchard pool. I think it's amazing. So good job. Free2Z, horrible. I've tried it last year. I think I lost one ZEC in the process because I tried to convert one ZEC into the credits that you use within the platform or something. And it was clunky and it did not work well. I don't know, it's just bad and subpar for the project. Maybe that they should manage their funds better. Shielded support for Ledger hardware wallets by Hanh. I've only seen people complain from the side of Ledger users saying that they have funds stuck in there and they have to. I think even Jameson Lopp had an issue, and that one was pretty viral on Twitter, where he said that he had some coin stock on a Ledger and he had to run an older version of the software to be able to recover them. That's a particular problem of an OG. But as far as I know, the integration is horrible. And I've spoken with the Trezor people who also got paid in the past, I think, a grant to do research about it. And there's a certain storage requirement that they needed to have for their hardware wallets, which up to this point was not met with their devices. I think right now Trezor has their Safe 7, which finally is on par with the specifications that they need. But I think both of these were bad investments. I gotta praise the Keystone integration, which works really well and is also integrated with Zashi. If anything, maybe that Keystone deserves, or maybe that they already got paid. I don't know how this works. I'm not gonna make any statement that's controversial. Zcash Avalanche Elastic Subnet Bridge. I haven't heard anything about this one, and I think it's underperforming because Near Intense and Hyperliquid are already serving the purpose of integrating ZEC into DeFi. And maybe that this one is more promising from a technical point of view, but I looked at ZEC Hub, which is listing the details about what they call the Red Bridge. And I see that the latest dates and milestones date back to March 31st, 2024. And in like 3 months, it will be 2 years since the last update. I don't know what's going on with this one, but maybe that they should accelerate the development or something because they're lagging. Shielded assets on Zcash. I think this is interesting, contrary to the opinions of the others, but I do agree that they should get funded after they provide results as opposed to just promises. We haven't seen too much about it, except for the promise that we can have stablecoins on Zcash. And Zcash Media, I never had a bad experience with them. So I'm not gonna say that they should get defunded. Anyway, I was harsh. And I also believe that Leadbytes and Anaximander and kellyjoe should basically answer once again because their answers were vague and they did not have like access to the list of projects so that they can actually name what they would cut funding from. Anyway, it's just my opinion. Thank you very much.
Well, everybody's welcome to answer these questions on the forum after the call if you wanna expound on things you've already said. So I would encourage everybody to do that. TS, you're up next. What's the one grant that ZCG approved that you would have voted against had you been on the committee?
Everybody's favorite punching bag, Zcash Media. Unfortunately, yeah, I would have not let it go ahead after the delays. So yeah, the first one showed promise. The second one appears to be broad without identifiable metrics, but it was really when the delays came in that it should have been more forcefully terminated, unfortunately. Although I have to say I enjoyed the videos in general, I don't think it was a good value for money in the end. So yeah, sorry, Zcash Media. That's my answer.
Thank you, TS. And last for this question, Kralux.
In general, I would have voted against any ambassador or educational hub grant that lacked performance-based payment tranches, specifically grants that award large upfront sums for content creation without verified view metrics or engagement indicators that represents poor stewardship. If I had to pick a general type, I would vote against purely social marketing initiatives that cannot provide a cost per acquisition for new Zcash users. Now, to be more specific, if I were making a judgment purely on return on capital, measurable output, and strategic value per dollar, Zcash Media, as funded by the ZCG, is likely the weakest link. Spending $1 million on video production while our protocol lacks basic DeFi utility is a failure of prioritization. As a businessman, I look at ROI, and the customer acquisition cost for that grant was astronomically high. Another one would be the Zcash Tor chain integration, because it represents the ultimate failure of execution, high cost, zero delivery, and years of wasted time. And then an honorable mention goes to the parity Zcash implementation that's been dead for several years.
Thank you. All right, we're on to the last question. Everybody's doing great. Thanks for your patience. Appreciate the brief, on-point answers, and let's keep it up for this last question. So, final question is: what's your view on Zcash's brand and community culture? What needs to change and what must be protected at all costs? And ShieldOrder, you're up first.
All right. What must be protected is the core identity of Zcash: private money, strong cryptography, user sovereignty. That's the foundation driving the shielded pool growth right now. The brand should remain anchored to privacy and technological edge. What needs to change, I guess, is drift. Too much attention is shifted to governance experiments that move faster than basic execution. The culture should refocus on reliability, predictable wallet behavior, measurable improvement across the shielded path. Zcash works best, it performs best when work is judged by outcomes rather than ideology or personality. The culture should reward clarity, verification, and consistent delivery. Protect the mission. Tighten the discipline. Reduce ambiguity. Strengthen the surfaces that users rely on, and that's how the brand remains credible and the community stays aligned.
Thank you, ShieldOrder. Tom, you're up next.
Yeah, this is a great question, and I've spent last year and a half or so on this question. I think the core of the brand is private, self-sovereign store of value, and I think we need to keep true to that. We made a really intentional choice when deciding our Twitter strategy. And at first we were like, these Monero people, we're not going to even talk about them because we think that we're above them, we're better than them, right? So they're not even worth talking about. But it was actually really important for us to set Zcash apart from Monero because Monero is as a community, very proud of the fact that they are distributed over these dark web markets where drug dealers and criminals are known for using it. And we intentionally created this mimetic framework where Zcash can't stop those people from using it, but we don't have to intentionally seek them out as our core user base. That doesn't have to be what we're about, and that doesn't have to be what privacy coins are about. And I think until this year, that was the assumption. It was like, hey, Bitcoin started with the dark web, and Monero is now taking Bitcoin's mantle via the dark web. But no, that was a 2012, 2013 market, and you don't need to do that anymore in order to prove store value. So we had a lot of kind of mimetic battles on Twitter with the Monero community, calling out the fact that, hey, you guys are embracing violent criminals and drug dealers as your core user base, and we're intentionally not doing that. And I think that actually really, really set a great tone for Zcash in the past 6 months. Privacy is for everyone. You don't have to target criminals to prove that.
Thank you, Tom. 1337 bytes. What's your view on Zcash's brand and community culture? What needs to change and what must be protected at all?
Yeah, so I think to start with, what should need to be protected, I think the kind of key value of privacy and self-sovereignty and kind of focus on self-custodial solutions, wallets, DeFi, via swaps, and so on, and a transparent and community-supported funding model, and decentralization in terms of relatively low barrier of entry to run a node, act as a validator. And I think kind of moving towards having more of a focus on decentralization is key, especially with kind of funding model moving towards a coin holder voting system that works for everyone, together with a healthy ecosystem of DAOs such as ZCAP, and try to preserve the kind of benefits of the kind of so-called minor tax while aiming to get rid of the concerns around centralization around specific organizations. I think keeping ZCAP, but cross-referencing votes across both coin holder polls and organizations such as ZCAP would be good. And I think it'd be good for the community to hold research around this and to know where there is a large difference of outcome depending on different consensus voting mechanisms, together with kind of not being weighted too much on value alone, because kind of wealthy individuals, organizations will theoretically be able to buy a large amount of ZEC and push anti-privacy positions. Whereas, for example, ZCAP, I think, works better to filter this kind of thing out. Kind of, even though I think, the community is very kind of open and welcoming and good job of representation around the world, I feel that this can definitely be pushed much further. Also the community work be done, for example, being kind of more active on platforms such as Nostr, Blue Sky, kind of potentially so kind of moving kind of away from decentralized platforms such as Discord to systems such as XMPP, SimpleX, and so on. And I think what's kind of good should change, I think, is having more discussion and engagement with a wider crypto community, listening to what makes them more likely to become active and contribute to the ecosystem. For example, the trademark, I feel, is kind of a contentious topic for example, Bitcoin, people in the Bitcoin and Ethereum community, and kind of seeing kind of how kind of Zcash can be better aligned with other crypto communities to kind of push for kind of better collaboration and kind of people around the ecosystem to contribute more to the ecosystem. And then also to kind of add on voting, I think definitely kind of more of a focus on better UI, UX to encourage maximum participation is really important.
Great, thank you. Vlad, your turn.
I think in terms of branding, Zcash is surrounded by two very powerful memes. The first one is that privacy is normal, and this is something that maybe we should expand upon, because as Tom said, we don't want the project to get associated with dark web markets, but we also want people to understand why privacy is important in everyday life. So this is something very powerful that Zcash has that no other project benefits from. And the other meme, which is very powerful within the Zcash community and has been famously pushed by Naval, is that Zcash is encrypted Bitcoin. And even if it's technically untrue, because it's not encrypted Bitcoin, it's zero knowledge proofed Bitcoin, it works in a different way. It's something that resonates with people, and when you talk about encrypted Bitcoin, people instantly know that you're referring to Zcash. And I think this is a very powerful meme that needs to be refined and basically placed into people's minds as much as we can. In terms of community culture, I do like all of the focus on zebras. I think it's a very cool meme and something that people should embrace, that zebras are black and white and anyone can be a zebra. I think it's very beautiful. Something that I don't like in terms of branding is the recent issue with the logo trademark and the fact that there was a letter from a lawyer office or something that was sent to something that was called Zcash Strategy or whatever, this company that's trying to build a treasury. And while I do agree that the project might be scammy, I disagree that there should be this kind of gatekeeping, which is only enabling the critics of Zcash to just pick the lowest hanging fruit and say, see, I told you that it's not an open source project, it's not decentralized, it's just a corporation, and this and that. I don't think this should ever happen. It's very bad for the reputation of the project. And this kind of incident can undo the work of a lot of people who try to explain how this is decentralized and the way in which you can run your node, because then they can just revert and say, see, I told you, these guys, they can just control the brand and they can silence you if you're not presenting Zcash in the right way or misusing the logo or something like this. So I do believe that we should embrace the open source culture and have sort of a, how should I describe it, like an immune system, like a white cell structure among the community to distinguish between what is legit and what is a misuse of the branding, but not use lawyers for it. What should be protected at all costs? That's another interesting question. And I think it's this focus on privacy for normal people. I mean, there's nothing that's stopping dark web markets from accepting Zcash, but the focus should be on everyday people and their needs and the fact that we have people who get paid, who don't want to see their employers seeing how they spend their money. We have people who don't want their neighbors to know how much money they have. We have organizations that maybe have all the reasons in the world to conceal the amounts that they're sending. And we should focus more on that. That's the right approach.
Great, thanks, Vlad. Anaximander, what's your view on Zcash's brand and community culture? What needs to change and what must be protected at all?
Yes, sure. So I have maybe an interpretation which is a bit broader, and instead of repeating what people said, I will take another angle. So first on the culture side. So I think culture, there is a community, but also how the inner functioning works of the Zcash development. So I think what must be protected at all cost is our culture of open debate and also error corrections. And also, so deliberate diversity of institutions inside the Zcash ecosystem, CF, ECC, ZCAP, Shielded Labs, for example. So reduces single point of failure and lets competing approaches and spread power. I think that's something that makes us strong as a community. Now, what needs to evolve? I think the diversity, it needs to keep this diversity flexible to adapt as the higher stakes grow. There will be more pressure and we have to see how to grow, how to respond to it. And for that, I think an important aspect is governance. Not just tech will decide Zcash long-term fate. So just one thing, I've lived governance in practice. I participated in the creation of the Financial Stability Board by the G20 after the 2008. So I gained some ideas about how we can approach, and maybe I will share on the forum later. Now on the brand, I think, yeah, there is this kind of memes. We talked, the other candidate talked, privacy, unstoppable, and so on. But there is also the mechanism to spread the brand. So I think local communities, podcast, education are the multipliers of adoption and awareness, and they must be protected in some way. So what needs to evolve? I think we should support them more and get real-world feedback back to us. That means that I want that we have local communities, but they feed us also from their feedback so we can adapt to their problem. I've done exactly this in diplomacy, engaging stakeholders and promoting our financial center. And I really think that a stronger brand, Zcash brand, not about the issues that we're hearing now next, but really about the name, about Zcash, will open partnerships. One example is my thinking on Brave that I shared on the forum. I think that's it. That's all what I wanted to say. And if you want to have a conflict-free outsider for the third seat, I'm here. That's all.
Great, thank you. Hanh, you're up next.
Okay, so what should we protect? I think the community is really positive and very eager to help each other and also welcome newcomers. I see very good interactions on both the forum and the Discord and Telegram. We don't have this mentality where we are trying to troll the other coins at all cost, like Monero, and I think it's a very positive thing that we should keep. On the thing that I think we should change is I have a sense that to join the development group, there's some gatekeeping still going on. It's pretty hard to enter the circle of devs. And I think this is why we have so few technical projects compared to other coins. So we have people who have worked for a really long time with the community and they have built trust, but that trust takes a long time to build. So we have the ZSA team, QEdit, and we have Zingo. Of course, we have ECC and NCF. But for independent developers, there's a lack of documentation. There's a lack of sample code and tutorials on this stuff, and it's very difficult to contribute to, for example, the core protocol, or not even the core protocol, but to contribute to Libras Zcash. Most of the change that you see there are going to be done by the core team, which is ECC. So I would like to see that change, and I think that until we change that, we will never become as big as the other coins. So in order to do that, I would push towards having a set of API and set of tools that are stable from release to release. At this point, things change too much. For example, just recently we had a network upgrade, and that broke practically everything, every wallet that was not aware. So of course, the broke Ledger, the broke Konami, or these guys, they are not directly involved with Zcash. I think that's pretty bad. And also, if you compare, for example, to Monero, if you want to come and develop an application that takes Zcash, so payment gateway or wallet, you don't have simple code for that. You would have to learn either via using ZingoLib or Zcashd, very low level stuff, in my opinion. Yeah, so these are the two things.
Thanks, Han. kellyjoe, you're up next. What's your view on Zcash's brand and culture and community culture? What needs to change and what must be protected at all costs?
Okay, thank you once again for the opportunity. I would say Zcash is defined by a rare combination of strong privacy values, and that is what I hold strong. I think the thing that needs to be protected most especially is its integrity, because many persons have laid a certain level of trust in the privacy of Zcash, and this is not something we want to take away from our audience. The insistence on real, unwavering commitment to users' privacy, even when it's politically or economically inconvenient, is highly necessary. You know, as a matter of fact, it's because Zcash Zcash privacy network over the years has proven stronger than some other coins which have claimed to be a privacy network. The community's culture of independence and the insistence on privacy as human rights is a strategic asset that differentiates them from other coins and ecosystem. Yeah, this credibility especially is a reputation for serious cryptographic research, and I think this is something that we need to hold there. And that being said, another element that needs to be resolved is in terms of marketing. I feel Zcash, more than the online, we can also do an offline marketplace where so that the Web2 brethren and those that use the traditional banks can also be acquainted with Zcash. Most of the our Web3 bros out there are not still yet acquainted. I think I attended an event recently, and I was questioning someone on about Zcash, and the person was and it was a Web3 bro, and the person was confused, So I had to educate him on the on Zcash and tell him that is the thing trending now, is the private coin now. And then something else I believe it needs to be improved is provision of SDKs, software development kits to help intermediary developers or developers to easily build something on the Zcash network without having to start from scratch, to get knowledge on that. So that being said, I just feel that's the key thing, preserving the integrity and keeping all these things in place. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Kralux, you're up next.
Okay. What needs to be protected? The cypherpunk ethos. It's our root, it's our DNA, and to not be true to that would be suicide. So the unyielding commitment to privacy, mathematics, and freedom from the global financial surveillance, that's our unique value proposition. In terms of what needs to be changed, maybe shed the image of an academic science experiment and embrace more of a posture for a financial product competing for global dominance. That means to be more inclusive, have a larger base, a bit less cliquish of a community, and involve more stakeholders in the process via decentralization. So I'm thinking stakeholder voting at some point, an on-chain proposal, ultimately something like a DAO. And timing is important for that. You can't do it too early because you don't have any decentralization. But if you wait too long to do this, the project may be captured, like Bitcoin today is a captured product by a few people. Yeah, that's it.
Great, thank you. So Frank, what's your view on Zcash's brand and community culture? What needs to change and what must be protected at all?
Yeah, first off, I think the similarity of the answers we heard so far shows to me that Zcash has a pretty good brand and also a pretty coherent community. I think in terms of brand, it's very good how Zcash is positioned, much better than Monero. The angle of positioning as positioning financial privacy as a human right and also a tool for criminals is the right approach. I think what needs to change is to not focus too much on other privacy coins and brand it more as a better Bitcoin, like what's already happening with branding it as encrypted Bitcoin. And that can actually scale with Project Tachyon and be used as a medium of exchange. Like I said, that's already happening with the recent price action and the improved social media strategy, and that's great. I think what should be protected at all costs is the core mission and the USP of Zcash of unstoppable private money. And unstoppable meaning focusing on Zcash being decentralized and censorship resistance, private money, no compromise, best in class, sender and receiver anonymity, hidden amounts, and also no metadata leakage, which needs some work. And money that it also has to be usable as a medium of exchange and not just as a store of value. I think it's very important to not get lost in the store of value game. That's just the first step, but to ultimately succeed as unstoppable private money, Zcash also has to succeed as a medium of exchange. I think the UX is super important for adoption. Without Zashi, Zcash wouldn't be where it is today. And it's important that the protocol doesn't get into feature creep, but it also doesn't ossify like Bitcoin. And that's probably the hardest line to walk in the future, as we can already see by an increasing debate on the proposed new features like crosslink and CSAs. And how these protocol decisions will be made on the governance layer will be one of the determining factors of the long-term success of Zcash, in my opinion. Because a higher Zcash price brings more attention and people with that you'll get more diverse interest, and then the social consensus mechanism on the protocol upgrades can easily break down. That's my take on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, we're down to our last four for this question and for all the questions. Zero, you're up next.
I think Zcash brand and community culture must prioritize and protect the core values of privacy, decentralization, and quality of code. And nothing should ever weaken Zcash privacy properties. For example, privacy is normal is a nice meme and has spread to almost every other privacy project already. but it might be a bit too boring now, and we should find something new and better and more fun that speaks to people more going forward. And we should also evolve from some of the past corporate vibes to more raw and community-driven brand development. And ZCAP has done great efforts to build a strong community with many new different contributors with positive culture. And also Zcash should become a bit more open to newcomers with known history from other privacy projects. And while generally Zcashers are pretty open-minded, they sometimes seem to become a bit defensive when newcomers are too loud or active, and we should be more open-minded. The community should also stay more progressive and continue and encourage all sorts of developments and improving the user experience and also developer experience, which is super important. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Artkor.
I think Zcash can sustain several parallel brand identities now, and that's completely normal. The community is large, the perspectives are diverse, and people naturally project their own values onto the Zcash idea. For me, personal Zcash has always been about strong scientific cryptography and a protocol for encrypted money that was ahead of the industry long before privacy turned into a marketing slogan. At the same time, I'm not opposite to adapting the brand language for a broader audience. If people connect more easily with phrases like unstoppable private money or encrypted Bitcoin, that's perfectly fine. What matters is that it helps the ecosystem grow without diluting the core idea behind Zcash. As for community culture, I generally appreciate how it has evolved. We've learned to maintain a healthy balance, protecting freedom and decentralization without slipping into the kind of toxic environment where anything goes and newcomers feel unwelcome. This balance is valuable and worth preserving with all the tools the community has, at least until Zcash become as widely understood and culturally universal like Bitcoin. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Artkor. TS, what's your view on Zcash's brand and community culture? What needs to change and what must be protected at all costs?
So first, I commend everybody for their stamina, candidates and people listening to us. This has been a long one. So the brand is quite strong. I'm happy that there has been a focus on thinking of how we allow people to compare Zcash with the other service or coin that we want them to, which is so encrypted Bitcoin is very reasonable with that. People won't buy something unless they can compare it to something else, and marketing should have them decide what we want them to decide in quotes, instead of going against other coins like Monero, which obviously is an inferior product and not such a welcoming community or such a wholesome community. I think that we also should understand that the best defense against people attacking the project who don't like what we're doing is mass adoption. So having as many people as possible using Zcash for payments to protect their privacy is important. Also to allow people to build wallets specific to their use case. Different markets around the world have different needs. For example, the power of the mobile devices is different in African countries, for example, at the moment compared to countries in Western Europe or North America. So tooling to help people build wallets specific to their use case. And the culture, what do we have to protect? Well, the culture of privacy, always looking to decentralize where we can, where it's possible. And I do enjoy, in some of the debates, the knee-jerk reactions that people in the community have against stuff that goes against their values. And I see this particularly in the engineers, which is a very positive thing. Doing things right and not doing things that would make us short-term popular, but go against what we're trying to achieve, what our values for the project are. Also, I'd like to see changes, as you know, from my posts on the community forums recently. I think that pure coin holder voting has its place. I would like to see an experiment with community discussion on futarchy for selection of grants. Maybe somebody will come up with a solution and seek a grant for it. That doesn't replace human decision making, but it's an interesting experiment that may turn out well. Also, I would like to see coin holders have the ability to vote for seats on this committee. But other than that, I think things are quite healthy, and there are a lot of good people involved. I particularly, got to shout out ZCAP, who are doing a great job of grassroots work, and also taking the load for smaller grants as well, which is very important. They're very welcoming and are really doing a good job. So that's it from me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, TS. And last but absolutely not least is Readymouse.
So for me, it feels like Bitcoin is a religion, and then Ethereum is a utility like gas and electric. But Zcash is a currency, and I really like that about it, and that like it's designed to be used. And so, as other people have said, like I want to see mass adoption peer to peer, like replacing Venmo as like an encrypted Venmo. But I also want to like see it at the coffee shop, and I want to see it out in the world where I can like, actually make transaction with it. And I think a lot of those utilities are coming. Um, but I think that is the brand. And I do love the community. I think it has built amazing tech. Sometimes it feels like the nerdy kids in the cafeteria that are in their own corner and they've built amazing things. And I love Zashi. And going out to conferences in the past year, like ETH Denver, and I was just recently in Buenos Aires, like it's very easy to talk about Zashi. It's easy to convince people that they want encrypted money once they hear about it. And even like I got like 20 something people to like download Zashi like while we're in the bar at a side event. Because people do just get it. They're like, oh, I understand it's not on the blockchain, it's encrypted. And so like for that, I love the tech components and I love that core sort of technical kind of like heart that everyone on the project has. Um, I would love to see it grow and mass adoption because a lot of the people that I'm interacting with at like major crypto conferences, they just haven't heard of Zcash, or they like, they don't really know what's the updates on the project, or they don't know that Near is like integrated into Zashi in such a way that like actually makes it usable and actually makes it functioning. Um, so that's what I would love to see in terms of like expanded adoption and kind of expanding out to the different communities, particularly like at-risk communities who are at risk of being debanked or journalism or targeted populations inside of countries, that sort of thing. And so I want to see the brand and the community grow in a way that maintains its current culture of being welcoming and accepting and the Boston Zcash community here is amazing because when I on-ramp someone new, I can send the shielded address and they'll send them little like welcome notes and love notes. And I don't know of any other currency that the community is like so welcoming of like random people on the internet being like, hey, welcome to shielded money. This is like the encrypted future. So I do love the community and I want to be a part of it. And I think the brand is good.
Great. Thank you, Readymouse. So to wrap us up here, ZCG candidates, thank you so much for taking the time to engage with the Zcash community and for your patience. This was a huge call and you all did absolutely fantastically well and really appreciate it. Your participation helps ensure that ZCG elections remain a transparent and community-driven process. If you're a member of ZCAP, keep an eye in your inbox for voting instructions. Your voice matters in shaping the future of the Zcash ecosystem. We encourage everyone to continue the conversation in the forums and stay involved. And thanks again. Good luck to all of you, our candidates, and we'll see you next time.